Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is MS Collections. In today's video, we'll be learning how to draft a basic bodice pattern. Okay, so I have my pattern paper already and be going ahead to draft. The first thing I did was to mark half inch from the top of my paper, which will be serving as my shoulder line. Okay, and then on that shoulder line I'll divide my shoulder by 2. My shoulder is 15, divided by 2 is 7.5, and I'll add half inch allowance to it. Then the next thing I went ahead to do is to mark out my neck. I used a width of 3 inches with a depth by a depth of 3 inches. Okay, but the neckline is kind of like optional depending on whatever style of neck you want to do. But for this, I'm just using a basic neckline, and I went ahead to curve it out with my pattern ruler. Okay, so after doing this, the next thing from this half inch marking we have, I'll go down by 1.5 inch, 1 inch rather, for my shoulder slant. Okay, so take note that I went down from that half inch, I went down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to add half inch at the top, which will be serving as the allowance for the shoulder area. Okay, so can you see what I'm doing? Just look at what I'm doing very carefully for you to understand. It's just me adding half inch at the top to serve as my hemming allowance. Okay, if you're new to this channel, this is me saying a very big welcome to you. Please do subscribe and like the video, share the content, okay, and turn on your notification bell so you get notified when I drop new videos. And for all those who keep stopping by, a big thank you to you. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to mark our armhole length. Okay, and to get our armhole length, the formula is your bust divided by 6 inches plus 1.5. Okay, and you're going to be taking what you get from that shoulder slant. Now my bust is 38 inches, divided by 6 inches is around 7.3 inches, plus 1.5 is about 8 and 3/4 inch. Okay, so that's what I marked. Okay, from that shoulder slant, that's from that 1 inch you see there for the shoulder slant. So I marked it from that point. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to get that figure, that point, after marking from the shoulder slant, I need to mark a line across to form my chest line. So that's what I did, getting that point. From that shoulder slant is 8 3/4 inches, but from the half inch is about 9 3/4 inches, since it's a 1 inch difference. Okay, so that's what I just did at the other side of the paper, so that I'll draw a straight line across, and this is going to be serving as my chest line. And the next thing will be to transfer my shoulder measurement to that line so that I can get a straight line. Okay, so whatever you have at the top, that's my shoulder divided by 2 plus half inch allowance, transfer it to your chest line so that you can secure a straight line. Now the next thing I'll be doing will be to divide this line into 2 equal halves, as you can see me do. So I marked it, and I'll be using my pattern ruler, my curve, to carve out the armhole. Now take note that I'll be carving out 2 armholes. The first armhole, which is what I'm carving right now, is for the back, while the second armhole, which will be deeper than this one, is for the front. And why is that? That's because the back is wider than the front, so you need to capture that in your pattern drafting as well. So to draft the front armhole, at that midpoint, I'll be coming out by half of an inch, and I'll go ahead to use my pattern ruler to create that curve, as you can see me do in the video. Now the next thing after that is to go from my shoulder line. I'll go ahead and mark my half cut measurement. Now my half cut measurement is the vertical line for which I'll be placing my under bust measurement, my horizontal measurement for my under bust, and which is what I'm going ahead to mark, and that is 13.5 inches. And afterwards I'll mark another line, 18 inches, which is the navel length or the vertical line for which you place your waistline. Okay, then the next thing I have is my blouse length, which is 24 inches, and I have 2 inches for hemming allowance. Okay, so make sure you mark this at both ends of the paper so that you can secure a straight line. Like I earlier mentioned, these are the vertical measurements that I'm marking out first. Okay, so go ahead and use your rule to mark out the lines, like what I'm doing right now, marking out all the lines and to make them as visible as possible. And then I'll go ahead and also label the lines. Okay, so the first line I'll be labeling CL, which will represent my chest line. Okay, so that's me labeling it CL. The second line is my half cut, which I labeled HC. The next is my navel length, which I labeled NL. And the next is my blouse length, which I labeled BL. And the next is my seam allowance, which I just labeled SL. Okay, so that's not about that, and I hope you understand the markings for these vertical measurements. Okay, and all these measurements are taken on the body of the client, so they are very simple. Now there's something I like to do between my half cut and my navel length, and I like to mark 2 inches after my half cut, and I call it the fitting line. It's not so popular, but by experience, this has been very helpful in a way that in between your half cut and your navel length, you take 2 inches after the half cut. Okay, so I just went down after my half cut by 2 inches and I marked another line and I labeled it FL, which is my fitting line. Okay, yes, so I have that line represented there, and it is on that line that the curve of the client to start from. It is also from that line that I'll be taking my dart allowance, which you later see me do as the video progresses. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to be imputing my horizontal measurements, okay, which is the measurements that have to do with the round of the client. Okay, so that's for the bust. The bust is 38 inches divided by 2 is 9.5 inches, and I used 1.5 inches for seam allowance. The next I'll be marking is the under bust. My under bust is 32 inches divided by 2 is 8 inches plus 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Okay, I'm so sorry you cannot see the tip of the paper. I didn't realize it wasn't captured, but I believe you would understand as well. Now for my fitting line, I'll just go ahead and transfer the same thing I have on my half cut is the same measurement I'll be transferring to my fitting line. So they are basically going to be the same figures. And then for my waist, I have a waist of 36 inches, which is divided by 2 is 9 inches plus my seam allowance as well. And then for my blouse length, I'll be using my hip measurement. Okay, so what I have on my hip is what I'll be representing there. My hip is 44 inches divided by 2 11 inches plus the seam allowance. So I have all the points represented. Now since I have the same figures at the half cut length and the fitting line, I'll just go ahead and take it from the top to the fitting line. Okay, so you would see that the one line is omitted, but that's not a problem because the two figures are the same. So I'll connect to the fitting from the fitting line to the waistline, and from the waistline to my blouse length and the seam allowance. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, and that's how it is. Take note that what you have at your blouse length is the same thing that is transferred to the seam allowance. So just go ahead and mark the line as so. Next thing will be to come from the base of my paper. I'll go up by 1.5 inch to create a curve by the edge. Okay, and that curve is necessary because we don't want that side to be pointy. Yes, we want it to be curved. And you can come in by, after going up by 1.5 inch, you can come in by 3 inches to create that curve. Now the next thing will be to secure my dart, okay, and I'll be doing that at the fitting line. So on my fitting line, I went in by 4 inches, and then that's what I've marked already. And the next thing will be to go upwards, going upwards by 4 inches and downwards by 3 inches. Okay, now it's not something that is fixed. Okay, the number is not constant. Okay, so you can decide to maybe go up by a little bit more or a little bit less. Okay, but I need 7 inches. I need to secure 7 inches at my dart. So I went up by 4 inches and downwards by 3 inches. And take note that all these points were taken from my fitting line. And I also need to mention that another thing that determines your dart is your nipple to nipple measurement. Okay, so from that point I went out on both sides by half inch. As you can see, I already did in the video. So after going in on my fitting line by 4 inches, I went in by half inch, and on the other side by half inch. So I went out half inch on both sides, and then I'll be connecting to the points I marked both up and down. So I was talking about the nipple to nipple measurement. It's like from the one from the beginning of one nipple on one side of the bust to the other side of the nipple. So for me, I have 8 inches. So you divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2 inches, which of course gives you 4 inches, and that's why I have it represented there. So you can just go ahead and take your nipple to nipple measurement, and that's what you'll be using to mark your dart. Okay, yes. And there you have it. That's what I have on my dart. So now take note that this dart is going to shorten the fabric. Okay, yes, because definitely if we are closing that up, it's going to be shortening our measurements. So in order not to have shortages, we are going to be closing up this dart. So close up the dart by from that point of the paper, you just fold it. Assuming you've closed it up, you just close it up and retake your measurement, so that we can replace whatever allowance we've lost for the dart. We can replace it at the other side of the paper. Yes, okay. So in case you've watched this video and you've come this far and you have not liked, you have not subscribed, please make sure you do that. You can just pause, subscribe, and it's very important you turn on your notification bell so you get notified when I drop new videos. Okay, I drop a lot of videos, pattern drafting, series tutorials. You wouldn't want to miss out. Okay, so please ensure that your notification bell is turned on, and your subscription, very important. That's the way you can support the channel. And of course, do not forget to like and share the video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I'll attend to them gladly. Okay, so like I was saying, this is me closing up the dart allowance, as you can see. Okay, so you just close it up like you are sewing it, and if it's going to be difficult, you can use a tape to pin it, to tape it down, or a pin to just hold this. But the essence of closing it up is to retake our measurements. Okay, so after closing it up, I retook my under bust round measurement. Okay, so now after taking it, I'm adding my 1.5 inch allowance, and can you see that excess I have? Now if I did not add that excess after making the dress, I'll be having shortage of seam allowance by that side. So it is very important that you close up your dart and retake your measurement to avoid shortages. And after doing that, I'll reconnect the lines, as you can see me do in the video, in the pattern draft that I'm doing. And basically, guys, that's it for our front bodies. It's very simple. Okay, it's very simple, nothing so technical, and they're just basic. That's why it's called a basic bodice. And having done all that, the next we'll be doing will be to cut off our pattern. Okay, so we are cutting it off. Take notes, you are going to cut in the last line. Okay, because that's our redrafted line after taking our dart measurements. And when you're cutting the armhole area, please cut it for the back piece. Okay, don't cut the front armhole. It's better you cut the armhole for the back piece, so that when you are done drafting both patterns, you can now trim out the front. Do you understand? So I'll cut it using the back armhole, but when I'm done drafting both the front and the back, I'll now go ahead and trim out the front armhole. Okay, so now the next thing I did is to place my pattern on another side of the paper to get my back piece. Okay, so since we have this draft set, the only thing I did was to place my front pattern 2 inches away from my 2 inches away from my paper. I'm so sorry that I didn't capture that part. It's not very visible enough, but I just placed it 2 inches away from my pattern paper. And then on my fitting line, I extended the fitting line outside. Okay, now that 2 inch allowance is for me to is my zipper allowance. Okay, but now you note that we need to eliminate zipper bulge. Okay, and that zipper bulge is usually eliminated at that fitting line. Okay, so what I did was from that fitting line, I subtracted half inch at that point, and I just curved it like a mini dart. I just blended it in upwards and downwards. I'm so sorry the camera didn't capture that, but that was just all I did there. At that fitting line, I extended it and I subtracted half inch at that fitting line, and it just looks like a dart. Okay, so from that half inch, I just blended it upwards and blended it downwards, and I went ahead to mark my neckline, as you can see. And then that will be all for the back pattern. It's very simple. I went ahead to cut it off, and then to cut the exact same thing I have on the front is what I marked at the back. Okay, so the zipper allowance portion is what is not captured, but like I said, place your paper 2 inch away from the new pattern paper you have, and then extend your fitting line. Now you have 2 inches marked, so just subtract half of an inch. Okay, and or whatever allowance you have, just subtract half of that allowance, half. So if you have 2 inches, at that point you'll be having 1.5 inch, and then you just go ahead and blend it, just similar to the way a dart looks. If you have 1.5 inch allowance, subtracting half inch at that point will leave you with 1 inch. Then just go ahead and blend it in upwards and downwards. Okay, just like the way a dart is. And just in case you're confused on how much to blend it in, you can just blend it 2 inches upwards and 2 inches downwards. Okay, so it's going to be like a mini dart. It's that simple. Okay, so that's all. You go ahead, I did not do it in this part, but you go ahead and trim off your front armhole. Okay, so that you have all the armholes as it should be. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you learned, I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section and I will attend to them. And of course, ensure you turn on your notification bell so you get notified when I drop new videos. Okay, so I'm happy you watched the video and I do hope you learned a lot. See you in my next video. Bye.